The Civil War resulted in up to 60,000 amputations. This was largely due to the scale of the war and a new technology. The proliferation of the new mini ball greatly increased amputations during the war. It was a rifle bullet made of soft lead with a hollow base that expanded when fired. The mini ball was heavier by caliber and caused more grievous wounds than a normal musket ball. And just to clear up any confusion, minié ball or mini ball is not a reference to the size of the ball nor the shape. Ball is just a term given to all ammunition at the time, and mini or minié is a reference to the inventor Claude Etienne Minié. And technically, all bullets today are still called balls because boulette is just French for small ball. So these mini balls were made of soft lead, and they would flatten out upon hitting a target and smash through whatever part of the body they connected with. This included bone. This was different from round balls fired from older smoothbore muskets. Round musket balls tended to remain lodged in the flesh, and they could sort of wind a pathway through the body, bouncing off bone or flex muscle and tendon. When you were shot by a mini ball, the ball tended to cut a straight path and usually went all the way through the injured part. The ball or bullet seldom remained lodged in the body. If a mini ball struck a bone, it usually resulted in a compound fracture, for which there was no surgery to treat at the time, besides an amputation. It is thought that 3 out of 4 amputations during the Civil War were a result of being shot by a mini ball. Historians have estimated that just under 30,000 Union soldiers lost a limb during the war, with over 21,000 surviving the operation. It's not entirely known how many soldiers received amputations during the war, as the Union didn't keep records of amputations until the second year of the war, and most of the Confederate records went up in flames in the last year of the war. It is estimated, though, about 60,000 soldiers on both sides underwent amputation. So great were these numbers, the federal government created the Invalid Corps, later renamed the Veteran Reserve Corps, and this was for disabled veterans to continue employment with war-related work, such as cooking or guard duty. There are detailed records that show how successful amputations were during the war. Survival rate was higher than you might think at 75%, but this varied significantly on the location of the surgery. Survival rates were as high as 96% for feet, or as low as 17% for an amputation at the hip. 40% of all amputations during the war were just fingers or toes, which had a very high survival rate. Speed was most critical to minimize blood loss, and a skilled surgeon could remove a limb in less than 5 minutes. Speed was also important to minimize the amount of dangerous and primitive anesthesia needed, which further put a patient at risk. Chloroform or ether, when available, was used for surgery. The war grew and advanced the prosthetic industry in a way never before seen. The federal government subsidized artificial limbs for documented Union soldiers who suffered an amputation. Washington would provide money for an artificial limb up to $75. Confederate veterans were not eligible for federal subsidies for artificial limbs, though some former Confederate states like North Carolina and Virginia funded their own artificial limb programs. Those who did get prosthetics had options. Many of the prosthetics were works of art made by skilled craftsmen and engineers. Between 1861 and 1873, 150 patents were issued for artificial limb designs. How each man felt about their injuries was as individual as how each man coped with the war. Some men felt their prosthetic helped them blend back into society after the war. Some men felt an empty sleeve or pant leg was a visible sign of a patriotic sacrifice. Some men simply didn't qualify for an artificial limb due to inadequate tissue surrounding the remaining bone, or chronic infection issues. Veterans who did not want or qualify for an artificial limb could apply for cash at $75 a leg, $50 for an arm. Disabled veterans could also apply for a monthly pension. The tens of thousands of applicants overwhelmed the government at first, and it took years to iron out the details to compensate families properly and protect against abuse of the new system. Alright, I'm Johnny. Thanks for watching this little overview on the sacrifices soldiers make, even in advancing medical technology like prosthetics, needed long after the fighting stops. Many of the prosthetic designs after the war were designed by veterans, and they deserve to be remembered. If you liked the video, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. Thanks, and take care.